Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Love, Food and Fitness. I'm your host Archana, an F&B consultant, a nutritional meal planner, and someone who's always believed that life doesn't go as we plan it. The magic actually begins where there is a pause. We go through different phases in life where things look perfect, but there is something off. But it is in those moments, those uncomfortable moments, that we are forced to take a pause, to think, to reconsider, and choose things differently. And today's guest is someone who's done exactly that, and how beautifully she's done that. You'll just come to know about it. She's worn many hats, from being a corporate leader to a traveler to a fitness enthusiast, and now a powerful name in the fashion world. With close to 2 decades in the corporate world, working with global giants, she made a bold decision to walk away without any plan in hand. What followed was not just a career shift, but a journey of self discovery, healing, and coming back much stronger. Today, she is the founder of the Moonrock Atelier, a brand that stands for confidence, individuality, and celebrating every body type. And before I proceed further, let me tell you that today I'm wearing her. I am looking, that you have to tell me how I'm looking, but I'm feeling very confident, very comfortable, and I feel clothes always make you feel very different. So if you're dressed well, if you're dressed properly, if you're feeling confident in what you're wearing, I think you have the world to take over then. That's what I'm feeling today, thanks to her. So let's welcome the very inspiring Kamalpreet Dhaliwal. Hey, Kamal, I'm so happy to have you here after a year now, maybe.
Yes, we've been talking for almost a year now, right?
Yeah. So I think I want to name today's episode on the life journey that you've had from boardrooms to bold rooms.
Wow.
That's what let's call it that. And let's start from the very journey. I think you have done your course from NIFT.
Yes, from
Basically,
Neftali.
yeah,
Yes,
NIFT Delhi, and so many people aspire to be part of that institution.
absolutely.
And but you still, after doing your course from there, you didn't pursue any line of fashion. You went to the corporate world, which is so different from what you probably studied. Why did
Right.
that? Why did you choose to make that shift?
Well, in my case, the story was a little different. It wasn't that I had originally planned to go to NIFT, actually.
Okay.
So, and as you know, our times were different, our conditioning was different, our aspirations were different,
Yeah.
our upbringing was different. So, I was that typical topper kid, from nursery till 10th who used to come first and, top
Oh, nice.
everything.
Yeah.
And if you're that kind of a kid, you just assume that you will. At that time, it was like either you become an engineer or you become a doctor. If you're a girl, you actually become a doctor. So, so fashion and all of this was considered, if I may say so, a little frivolous,
Yeah. Yeah.
compared
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
a lot of these so-called very, prestigious careers. So I guess somewhere, that conditioning or that thought process was very much in my mind also, that, I'm a topper or I'm an intellectual. So I want a more serious career. I want, something more fulfilling. Um, so I guess what I had thought that time was that I would go into the corporate world. I was not aiming to become a doctor or an engineer. I was quite clear about that. So it wasn't like there was a shift. In fact, NIFT was the aberration. So I
All
was
right.
actually planning to do my MBA, and I was all set to actually leave. But my brother was in IIM that time. He's also from IIT Delhi. Sorry, IIT Calcutta and
Okay.
IIM Calcutta. So he told me that a lot of us choose the path which is the more so-called followed path, and you are the creative type and you love a lot of creativity in your life, so why don't you experiment a little bit more, like just you've got NIFT, it's so prestigious, like 26 seats all India, so it's
Only 26 kids
yeah,
out in India.
so he was like, you don't let go of something like that.
Yeah.
You've got it.
He's right.
So
He
you
was right.
must, yeah. So he was the one actually who convinced me. So he was like, just go do it. And after that, if you just want to still go and do your MBA, nobody's stopping you. You can still go ahead and do that. And you can always pursue your corporate career and, all of that. So literally that was the reason I agreed to go. And of course, it's a very different world. And I think back then, I did not realize that this was my true calling. I was still doing it more like, just something that, you've got. So you're just kind of ticking it off and then getting on with the rest of your life.
Okay.
So, and that's pretty much what I did. I did NIFT, but I actually never really pursued anything which was related to it. And I got back completely into the corporate world and into marketing, which is what I really wanted to do. Yeah.
So what made you actually then take a pause and rethink about it?
So that's the ironic part, I think, in the whole story. We never really plan these things, and perhaps we don't know ourselves also as well as we think.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you evolve and
course.
your perspectives change, all those things happen.
Yeah.
So in my case, I would say I was very lucky. I got to do everything that I, had visualized for myself. I had a very high flying corporate career. I was, I became the CMO of a Fortune 500 company at 33. So I was extremely happy with the way my career was going. And for a person like me, I would say I'm not really ambitious in the regular definition of the word. So
Yeah.
power, money, designations, and all of that is not really what makes me tick. The interesting part was that I got to do everything that I'd visualized for myself and in the way that I wanted to do it. So it was not about the typical, race for power or money or designations. For me, it was always about the work, about finding something more challenging, more interesting, more me. So after 6 startups and, becoming the CMO of a Fortune 500 company at 33 and getting to do literally, I think, everything that I needed to do across different industries. So it was a very interesting career. It was definitely not one of your plain vanilla careers where it becomes repetitive or boring or all of that. So that thankfully never happened with me, and I was very fortunate that I got all the breaks, all the opportunities that I wanted for myself, and I was able to give it my 200% and live that life to the fullest. But a stage comes when I think you also change your perspectives. So with me, I think what happened was that I did so much so quickly. As I said, 6 startups, a lot of new businesses, which I, as part of the leadership team, I launched in India. Very, very intense career, extremely intense career. So I think what I used to do in 6 months of my one job, people would typically do in 2 years or 3 years. And that's also my DNA type. Which my husband tells me, that it's your problem. It's not people's problem that you end up working like 24 hours a day and, you give so much that, you end up living like 2 years and 6 months. So, which is very true. That is how I am.
That's how you are.
That is how I am. That's how I like to work.
Yeah.
Work has always been my life, my priority. Ever since I was a kid, first it was studies and, whatever I wanted to achieve in my extra acads and all of that. And then it became my career. So it's just my DNA type. So I would give it a lot. And maybe after a point, you feel like you were given too much,
Is it
and
like a burnout?
a little bit like a burnout, also a little bit like, there's more to life than just this. So I think it was
Yeah.
more that.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I would say a typical burnout. It was more like, okay, I have been doing this at this pace for so long. Is this how I want to live the rest of my 20, 30 years also? And I think that was the pause. So that was what made me think that, okay, there is life beyond the boardroom, beyond the corporate world, beyond just work per se. There is more to life.
There's more to life.
So that was the shift. That was the pause, rather. And honestly, I wasn't sure, because I'm such a work obsessive person that I didn't know what would I do if I was not, if I didn't have a career or a job, or I just didn't know what I was going to do. But I think I am very headstrong. So, uh, it's like once it comes into your head, it just comes into your head. So at the peak of my career, I quit. And everybody told me that you're mad,
Which is
because
just like that.
just like that. Literally everybody who knew me told me that you're crazy because you can't sit at home. You're not made like
Yeah,
that
you
at
know.
all. I also don't socialize at all. I'm not at all a social person. So, and by that time, my child was in, I think, 11th. And obviously, I knew he's going to go in 2-3 years. So that was also another big reason. I think I just really wanted to spend time with him and focus on him when he really needed it the most.
Yeah.
Because all
Makes sense
through,
also.
yeah, so all through his earlier years, I had this crazy career and I was in and out and I used to travel the world and hardly be there. But we are very close, and I mean, I don't have any regrets on that, like a lot of moms do.
Absolutely. They're
Like a
carrying
lot
the
of,
guilt all the time, the working
yes,
women.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I was a little luckier in that sense that I had a good support system and I never felt that he's not being taken care of and I'm not there for him at all. So somehow we were able to manage it well. Of course, a lot of credit goes to my husband, my family, everybody who helped me to do that.
Yeah.
And of course, my son, who totally gets it. He understands. He actually
I think
respects
children
that.
too. Children
Yeah,
too.
I think he
Yeah.
actually is happier that I am this person that I am, rather than
Yeah.
someone who was probably would have given up her career for the child, and would have been sitting and moping around at home. So I don't think he would have been happy also about that. So that part all worked out, but like I said, by the time he was in 11th, and it just suddenly hit me that he's also going to go. So it was a good time to just take a pause, take a break. I thought I'll just see what happens. And what I actually did at that point was just travel the world. I took a year off. I love traveling. I love exploring different places. But when you're in the corporate world and in that whole thing, there's always like a timer on your head.
Oh yeah.
You need to get back in certain number of days.
I think
And
it's worse now with the mobile being tracked.
yeah, I mean,
Respond.
it's much worse now
It's much worse now.
because there is no escape at all.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember we used to go for these treks very regularly where there was no network. And I think that's what kept me sane all those years, because every 4-5 months we would just take off for these treks where there was no connectivity, and just nature and just beauty, and that's it.
Oh,
And just
beautiful.
complete quiet and complete solitude.
It's difficult to find a place like this now.
Well, you can. You need to get away from the world. I mean, at
Yeah.
least I need to get away from the world, and you need to find those ways to do
Yeah.
it. So I thought that I would just travel before I'm too old and too tired, and I just lose the enthu to completely do anything of that sort. My health was another very big concern, because I had started getting very serious issues in my health as well. So I think that kind of played on my mind as well, that before I don't have the energy and my health to travel, do the things I want to do, before it's too late, kind of a
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
that suddenly started hitting me. So I just quit. I just took off and I traveled for a year. It was amazing. There was no agenda, there was no plan, there was no timer,
Wow.
there was nothing. I just wanted to float for the first time in my life. Like, I had never floated
And all alone.
alone. Most of it was alone. My like my husband and my son joined me like for 2 weeks whenever in that year, whenever my husband had those 2 weeks off. And in between, some one or two friends would join for like 4-5 days wherever in the world I was, and if they were able to join. But they just came and went, like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, as it is, with people. But I was very sure that I'm going to have my thing, and whoever comes, doesn't come, it's fine. And that's how I did it. And I think for me, the breakthrough was that ever since I think I was in KG, I've never floated. Like I've always been that kid, with
Perfectionist,
yeah,
to
with
keep on doing
like
things.
focus, and like I'm always busy. I'm always like I have targets and things to achieve, and so I never played, as a kid, which is really funny now that I look back. But I never did. I was just not that kid. I was not that person only ever. So I think that's what happened. I just decided that like I want something else now. I just want to see how it feels to not do anything. I mean, how does it even feel?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just quit. I took off. And
So you're
when
missing your work, or probably that what you were like so busy and everything while you were there? What was
actually, I
it?
did not.
You did not?
I did not.
Oh, wow.
I did not. But I think that was because it was the first time I was doing something like that. Everything was exciting and new. And I was traveling around the world to very interesting places. I was doing it my way completely. So I just didn't get a chance to get bored or, think like, why am I not working or anything. I was just happy. I was very happy actually. So I think that year changed a lot of things for me internally. I was just grateful that I got to do it at the right time. And I had the courage also to do it. I had the means to do it.
Yeah.
And I think means you have to make them happen,
True.
once you
What you
decide.
want to do, you have
Yeah.
to make it happen.
Yeah, because there was a lot of pressure that time that the money and like how much I. Of course, I'm not a very lavish spender, and like it's not like I was staying in 5 stars and all of that. But still, it's a lot of
Still,
money.
1 year of world
It's
travel
a
is
lot of
like,
money. But I think for the first time, I just kept everything aside. I was like, we'll see, we'll figure it out. But I'm doing this right now. So I did that, and then I came back, still with no agenda, still with no clear plan of what I want to do next. And then actually it just happened like it happens in the movies, no? You wake up one day and then you have this eureka moment. So actually that's how it happened. I mean, there are a lot of very close friends who've been telling me for a long time that, you are so good at fashion and dressing up and styling and everything. Why don't you start something?
even in
this?
those days, I think you mentioned that you were, actually always dressed up very
Yeah.
differently from normal people who dress up.
Yes, yes.
You were
That
conscious about the fashion, probably,
yes. I
or
think
the
that
style.
was something which was there right from day one.
Yeah.
It's just that I never, like, for me, it was a very natural thing. I didn't think about it. And I didn't even give it that much importance. It was just very intuitive. So, but yes, every day of my life, when I would step out of the house, I was dressed to the T and, like sharp. And people used to ask me, like, how do you do this every day? Like, don't you have a bad day? Like, and, and I had this crazy 15-hour, 18-hour work life. So they were like, don't you just get tired of wearing these stilettos and these bodycons and, like
You
being
were
so,
wearing bodycons too.
yeah,
Oh,
every day.
wow. Every day. Wow.
I lived only in bodycons and stilettos and not a hair out of place kind of a person. And with that kind of a crazy career. So people used to really like, I think get just irritated and say that don't you ever really have a bad day? Like, don't you? And I said it's the other way around. When I'm having a bad day, I dress even better because it lifts me up.
Yeah. It
It
definitely
makes
does.
me feel better.
Yeah. It always does. When you're
Yeah.
feeling low, if you kind of dress up well, it makes a lot of difference. It makes
Yeah.
a lot of difference.
So I just always did it for myself. It just made me feel better. Even the days when I was very low, very tired, very exhausted, I had health issues. I had a lot of health issues at that time. I just did it, and it always made me feel better. So that's how it used to happen. So a lot of people, and for parties also, I would be the only one at that time wearing, these tube bodycons, and everybody at that time, nobody used to wear these kind of dresses, and in our friend circle, definitely not. But I never really, it never bothered me that what are other people wearing, not wearing, doing, not doing. I just did it for myself. It used to make me feel nice, and I would do it. And of course, I had a very nice friend circle where, people didn't like, bother much about it as well. That in fact, they all used to tell me that after seeing you, we started feeling like, we should also wear
Yeah.
these kind of clothes. It was always very nice, in a very positive way. Similarly in office, a lot of people would say that after seeing you that, we also feel like we should dress up.
Dress up every day.
It just looks
I think
nice.
your performance changes when you're dressed up like that.
Yes, and how people perceive you
Yeah,
changes.
absolutely.
You just feel sharper, you look sharper, people also treat you a little differently, I
Yeah.
feel. So that's how it happened. And then finally, one very close friend said that, why don't you just start? Why don't you just start something in fashion and we'll see, and that's how Moonrock actually started. The first thought that I had was, as I was sharing earlier with you, it was started for people like me who were in very busy corporate lives and, senior management, obviously, where you need to be a certain way in different avenues. Like in
Yeah.
a board meeting you're supposed to be dressed a certain way, you have a wedding to attend, you have a cocktail evening to attend, you have your office event in the evening, after a 20-hour day, and you still need to look good, and you don't have time to go shopping. So I started Moonrock with that thought in mind, that I would design the complete wardrobe for the person,
For a corporate person.
for the corporate person, because that's the world I came from. So I think
absolutely.
all my friends are from the corporate world, so I think that's what I knew.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. I thought, it would be so nice to have someone like that who could just design for your body type. That's very important, because you're stuck so many times because you don't get what looks good on you. You just have to compromise, or you just give up. You end up wearing the same thing everywhere because you're like just too fed up of trying to find someone who can make something like that for you. So that was my thought. That's how I started, that it would be an end-to-end wardrobe solution for people who needed to look a certain way for different occasions, and had a certain body type. And of course it has to match their personality also, because you need to carry it well as well. So that's how it started, and that's the story of how I shifted from corporate to Moonrock.
Just going back a bit, you said there were health issues as well. What were the
Right.
health issues that you were facing?
So almost like 18 years back, I got thyroid. I think that was the first technically diagnosed health issue.
Okay.
I used to have a lot of issues of fatigue and, like you said, burnout kind of feelings, and off and on. I used to be a very high energy person, extremely high energy person. I was that type who could just go on for 20 hours and never get tired, never eat, never sleep, and be like just on. And I was just used to being that person. And then suddenly things started changing. I started feeling really tired, really exhausted, like all the time. And I didn't know what was happening to me. And the mind, like, I used to feel foggy and not there, kind of a thing. And I was still relatively quite young, like I said, around the same time, 31, 32. And I didn't, obviously, don't think you are going to get any, issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
That time you were like,
That time, at least. I
yeah.
think now people are more used to.
Yeah.
So I never bothered to get my tests done or whatever. It was just fortunate that someone suggested that, why don't you get your thyroid test done? And it was completely off the charts. Like, it was way out of control. So that was the first thing that happened, which was identifiable, I would say.
Okay.
And of course, I started taking medication for that as per advice, but somehow I was never the same person again. I took medication on paper, it would come, my, levels are fine, but I just never felt fine. I just never did. I would still have that chronic fatigue. I would have lots of body ache. I would wake up feeling like I haven't slept in a month, every day. So I've been dealing with that for the last, I think, almost 18, 17 years now. That was the first. And then, of course, I got cervical. I was on the bed for like 3 months. I couldn't move. And for a person who's so used to being up and about and, like, action, action, action all the time, it's a shock.
Yeah.
It's a huge shock, when you can't move, like you can't even lift your head. So, like that, a lot of things started happening. This was just like, I've just shared two things. And suddenly my life started changing a lot. I had to just deal with it. I just had to accept that I'm no longer that person who can just do everything. Like, I should be like a one woman army, like 10 logo ka kaam akele types. I still did it, but it just took a very big toll on me. Even when I started Moonrock, I kept doing that. I still worked like a maniac. But it just got harder and harder. I used to really get exhausted. After every show, I would lose like, I think 7, 8 kgs because I hadn't slept. I would be like trying to do everything on a zero budget. Obviously, because you're just investing your own money, and you're
No.
doing everything by yourself. So it was a lot to handle. But I just kept doing it because that's who I am. And I think, and then I got sciatica, and then I would just keep getting random injuries, like,
You were taking your body for granted,
yeah,
maybe.
I just would, every 2, 3 months, I would get a fracture, or I would be like, something would happen, and I would be on the bed. That just became the pattern. The minute you start feeling, okay, now I'm getting better and I'm going to be at it, boom. So, and for my personality type, it was very tough to accept because I was just not that person. And I'm also not that person who would, run to the doctor to like get a solution. I would be that type, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong. And I just like power through it, just keep at it. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong. So, which obviously did not help at all.
I know.
So, I think over the years, I finally accepted that there are issues which medicines are also not able to solve. Doctors did not have an answer. They were like, your tests are fine, you're fine, you look healthy, you look fit, there's nothing wrong with you. And it was very frustrating for me because I had no answers as to why do I have this chronic fatigue, why do I feel like something is sucking the life out of me all the time.
So were you able to diagnose later then what it
No.
was? No?
My diagnosis later was that a lot of it was emotional and psychological. So that was my grand conclusion after a very long time, because I
His
think in
mind
our
is playing the
times,
game.
in our times, I think we never, I mean, it just, this whole thing was not there,
The mental wellness kind of a thing
Yeah.
term was not there
It
at
was
that
not
point of
there.
time. It was not
Mental
there.
wellness, emotional wellness.
Yeah.
I think we were not even aware.
Aware, we were not
It was
aware.
just physical, and that's it. Like, physically
Yeah.
you're healthy or not healthy, and that's it.
That's it.
So again, we were not trained for that, or we were not aware. I think today's generation is very aware of
Yeah,
their
they are.
emotional
They
and
are.
mental, or
Yeah.
maybe a bit too aware. But it took me that long to understand that my physical manifestations are all coming from my emotional and mental and psychological well-being, or not well-being. That's where it's coming from. So that's been a huge journey for me.
How did you kind of correct it then? When you realize it is
Um,
all to do with your mind?
So I tried to make some changes in the easier things, which was my work and the way I would work. I was prone to taking a lot of stress all the time, take everything too seriously, perfectionist, change the world, do this, do that, like to an extreme, which I realized that you don't need to. You can still be a great performer in life for whatever goals you have set for yourself without killing yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that was one big shift. I realized that you can take it a little easy and still be fine. Your output is still going to be fine. That helped a little bit. So the anxiety, the stress, the gut issues, the stomach issues, which were perennially there since so many years. uh, at least I could start identifying that what has triggered it. Earlier, there was no knowledge, there
Yeah,
was
there
no
was a knowledge.
awareness.
Yeah.
Then I started identifying, okay, this has happened, so therefore this has happened. This is how I was feeling, and therefore that has triggered this. So there was a direct correlation that I could start making between, okay, I've got a cervical attack, what triggered it? Why did it happen? I got sciatica, an episode that lasted for 8 months, 9 months with
Oh
no
my
solution. What triggered it? Why did it happen? So the why started
Yeah.
becoming
Yeah, I see.
more evident.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot because it also brought a little bit more peace. I mean, I couldn't solve it, but at least I was aware. I was more aware of why. Otherwise, it was just frustrating. Like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? There was no answer anywhere. But this changed. I could start identifying, and it was my journey. No doctor told me. No doctor could identify why. They would just. It was like, okay, you come. Okay, we are going to give you a medicine which will solve it. If it's not solving, then we are sorry. You go solve it yourself. You know, literally that is the attitude. Like, can we operate on it? Can we give you a medicine? If not, I'm sorry. Like, we don't have any answer.
Yeah, we have no solution.
We have no solution. So you're basically on your own. You're trying to figure it out by yourself. And I think I did find my own answers over a long period of time. I wish somebody had shared all this earlier with me, and it wouldn't have taken me so long. I would have addressed the core issues much earlier,
Much
and I
earlier.
would not have suffered so much.
No, at least we talk about it. I think people are
Yeah.
sharing about it. People are
Yes.
going to see therapists and all. Things are
Yes.
very different now.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think it's very important because if you don't address the core issues, your physical issues are never going to get addressed.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
So that's the big, that's one big thing which I would like to share. And I think women are very prone to this because women just have this whole habit of internalizing everything, taking it on themselves. Emotionally, we just take on.
But their DNA is like that.
Yeah,
For
the
all the
DNA is
women,
like
yeah.
that, right? So it's a thing that we just do intuitively, right?
yeah.
So if I had been aware that the things that I'm doing, which I'm not happy about, there were a lot of things in my life, which big things that I was not happy about, but I did because of certain reasons. If I had known the price for that would be so high,
So high.
I would have probably taken a stronger action earlier, even if it meant hurting the people that I love, which is why I didn't take those actions because I just couldn't do it. It's not that I didn't want to, but it's like it's just something you don't do because you don't want to hurt.
That's not how you made up. So.
That's not how you're made. But if I had known that this whole thing, which is building up, building up, building up, is going to just go boom one day, and I will be the one suffering for so many years, I would have definitely taken a different approach. I'm pretty sure about that.
Now I felt that people who are fit, their mental alignment is also much better in the sense they're
Yeah, yeah.
much lighter and everything. But in your
100%.
case, you've been fitter
Yeah.
than ever. But all these years, you've been really fit that I've kind of seen you as well. And I think you can do you are doing modeling for your own clothes, or if you're not, you should do that. But still, mental issues were there. The
Yeah.
psychological issues were
So
there.
I think what everybody tells me now is that that's what kept me going much longer because I was fit physically, because I used to work out regularly since a kid.
Yeah.
My dad was in the army and I used to watch him working out, so I just started working out at home. Again, at that time there was no this culture of gymming and so much of fitness and all, which is there today.
Yeah.
But fortunately for me, since I came from that background and it was in our family, so I just picked it up and I have been working out at home. I don't go to a gym, I don't go to a trainer. I have my own routine, and I've been doing it since years. I think that at least kept me going for much longer. Even today, who I am and what I am is a lot to do with the fact that at least whenever I'm standing, whenever I'm able to, I do not let go of my workout. It's been very difficult because it's a chicken and egg, right? If you're not, if you're not okay and you're not able to do your workout, if you try to do it, it can lead to more injuries, which has happened many times with me. And then, of course, this whole thing of perimenopause and so, which
that's
is
like a
like I'm laughing right now.
Everybody's own experience in that.
Yeah. So I'm laughing right now, but again, I wish somebody had told me about this, that this is the old bus which is going to, or rather a bullet train which is going to hit you.
Oh yeah.
Again, had no clue. Uh, don't talk too much about these things to anybody. And again, now there is more noise around
Yeah,
it.
there is.
People are talking about
Which
it.
is good.
There's more
Which is good.
awareness.
Yeah, there's
It's
more
very good
awareness,
because
yeah.
at least you're, again, as I said, if you're mentally prepared, if you're aware, just being aware helps you to address it better. If you don't know what's happening, if you don't understand what's happening, how are you ever going to be able to deal with it?
True.
So the same thing happened with perimenopause, like so many issues. And obviously, if you already have issues, they just, everything gets aggravated,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
like it's like COVID used to aggravate everything for people. So I think perimenopause is also like that. Like whatever issues you have, just triple, you know. So that has been going on again for the last 5-6 years. It added a whole new dimension to the health part of the story. But yeah, if you
I think if
manage
you're able
it,
to identify where your problem is, what your problem is,
Yeah.
I think you're able to control it then. You were able to,
Yes,
even it took
yes.
you a while, but you were able to still identify it. It's like
Yes,
many people are not able to identify.
that's true. That's true.
And there's of course a lot of taboo also, you know, like mental issues mein kya hai?
Yeah. I think fortunately now it's not there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very happy to see that people are openly discussing
Yeah,
more,
exactly.
sharing more, talking
Yeah.
more, seeking help more
Seeking help.
openly.
That's most important. Is
Yeah.
seeking help.
Yes. So I'm actually very happy about that, and that's why I feel like more people should share. And I think this is again a myth that, like, a lot of people see me and they say, "Oh, you look so fit, and you've always looked like this for the last 30 years that we've seen you. You can't be having health issues. You know, you can't be having
Yeah.
fitness issues. You know, you're like this only. So it must be very easy for you." But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
You know, getting up every day and doing exercises is a lot of willpower, a lot of discipline. It doesn't come easy.
I mean, actually, in my case, it's just there in my DNA. I think so. I like to do it, but when you're not able to do it,
Yeah, because of some physical
and
pain.
because of your, physical health, and you're still doing it, that takes a lot more. You're still fighting through it, and you're still doing it, and you still want to make sure that your fitness level doesn't fall, and you don't like fall to pieces. So it takes a lot more effort. And what I tell, like I shared with you in my work, I meet a lot of women who are dealing with a lot of issues. I mean, psychologically, mentally, physically, emotionally. And what I always tell them is that first you have to accept it. You have to accept that, okay, this is an issue. Instead of just saying everything is fine,
Yeah.
I'm fine, I have no problem in life, I don't know why this is happening to me. Because that's how we start.
Yeah.
So first, just sit down,
I know.
be honest with yourself,
True.
and identify what is really bothering you. Whether it's another person in your life, a situation in your life, your work, your own mindset, whatever it is, just sit down and do that work for yourself, because nobody's going to do it for you.
I know.
Nobody.
Nobody will.
And nobody can.
Actually, nobody can.
Nobody can.
Nobody can do it.
So just do that, identify it, and I guarantee you will start. At least you will know, okay, this is where I stand today. This is why this is happening to me. This is why I'm feeling like this. This is why this is manifesting like this. And hence, if I do not address the core issue, this problem is never going to get solved. Instead of just trying to do patchwork here and there and, trying to like plug holes. Instead of that, we just need to take a huge step back, especially I think women at our age, like from my 40, like I turned 50 recently. So from my 40 to 50, I think I've done this whole journey has been, I mean, just a very different journey for me. From my first 30 years to like these 20 years of my life, these 10 years of my life have been completely different.
Yeah, your body, your age, everything it changes,
Yeah.
and you have to
Everything is-
accept what is coming
Yes.
your way.
Absolutely.
But with this kind of body that you have maintained with exercise and everything, you said you eat aloo parathas, and that's what you love also.
Yes.
So, how I think a lot of people, when they start to become fit, they are kind of not eating properly.
Yes.
Now, since you've been
Food.
so fit and you
Yeah.
eating parathas also on top of that, so what's probably your mantra, or how you would like to guide anybody on that front?
So I think again, relationship with food is a very interesting angle in our personal life. Everybody has a different relationship
Yeah,
with
yeah.
food. A lot of people, again, like I said, for them, food is like a stress buster, or like it's comfort, or
I
it's
know,
like
binge
feel
eating.
good,
Oh,
right? So I've realized this again because I work so closely, more closely with people now in a
yeah,
very different way.
yeah.
So I've realized a lot more
I know,
about all
dressing
this.
them up, you kind of come.
Yes. While I'm dressing them up, I'm not just dressing them up, right? Because I read people, I talk to them, I understand their personality and their vibe, and then I create clothes, as per that, which will still make them look stunning, but it's still you. So it's very important. So in that journey, so coming back to food, for me, see, the good part is I'm not technically a foodie, so I'm not like I don't live to eat in that
Okay,
sense.
okay.
I have never stopped myself from eating anything. So that's always been, except I think when I was the typical teenager, where you go into that
Yeah, yeah.
thing of, my mom always scripts about it. But my whole life, I love sweets. I have a huge sweet tooth. And people who know me, they always laugh. They're like, people see you, they think you just eat leaves, and you're one of those salad people. And
Yeah,
if they see you eating meatha, they will never believe it. And you remember I ordered that 1 kg tiramisu
yeah.
from you, and I ate all of it by myself. So
Really?
I'm that kind of a person.
Okay.
But um, I would say I balance it quite well, because I eat what I like to eat, but I don't go overboard. Portion size generally is like that. But I don't make food into a hawa for myself, that nahi khana, nahi khana, ye nahi khana, this is. Yes, from the time I was a kid, I think my general eating habits are very healthy. That's just generally there. Like, I don't like fried food. I don't eat too much of fried food. I don't have heavy food. But I have a very healthy relationship with food. I eat what I like, and I eat in portion sizes that I like. And for me, what is more important is that I need to keep working out. If I'm working out, I feel there's no problem. You can eat, you can drink,
That's
you
how it
can
is.
enjoy,
Yeah, yeah. If you
and
work
you
out, you can.
enjoy eating more
Yeah,
because you feel good about yourself. If I'm not able to do my workout, then I get very miserable. Then I don't like to eat also. I don't enjoy my food. I don't enjoy my meat also, because I just don't feel good about myself.
yeah.
So that's my take on food. I think for everybody, that's what would be my suggestion, that don't cut down on food as much as increase your exercise. As long as you're just working out regularly, a normal human being will remain fit and healthy. As long as you're able to do 4 to 5 weeks, in a days of
Yeah,
exercise, any form of good exercise, and just have regular food. Like, don't 1 or 2 days of cheat. Doesn't make any
doesn't
difference.
make a
It
difference.
doesn't make any difference. Like, nothing is going to happen if once in a week you go binge eat something you like. But the daily thing really adds up. So if you're doing it daily, then it's on you.
It's on you.
Then
You
it's
made
on
that
you.
choice. You made
Yeah,
that
you made
choice.
that choice. And
Yeah,
then you can't crib that, oh, I don't know what's happening to me. I'm
yeah,
just putting on, putting on, putting on.
yeah.
Because even that one day, every day snack, which is not healthy, but you're doing it every day, is going to
Add up.
catch up.
Yeah, it's going to add up.
So for myself,
Yeah.
that's my rule. Like, I do what I like to do as long as I'm working out. When I'm not working out, I become even more conscious about what I'm eating. And in general, I would say I just have a very balanced, healthy diet. I don't like outside food. I love ghar ka khana, simple homemade food. So that, anyways, I think helps a lot.
Wonderful. Uh, um, Now, since you've been draping women, not draping or dressing them up, I would say, for so many years, you also dress up men.
Yes. So a lot of people don't know that yet,
Yeah.
but I started menswear some time back as well.
Okay.
It's a very niche segment compared to my women's wear, because in women's wear I do everything from cocktail gowns to Indian to West, like your resort wear to office wear, and like literally everything under the sun. But for men's wear, it's very limited to fusion. There's fusion festive, fusion wedding wear, and smart formals,
Okay.
like blazers and your party suits and stuff like that, and office, of course. So it's a very niche, kind of a line that I do, and it's a certain sensibility only. Like, people who don't like very loud and very like those heavily embroidered kind of thing, but they want something smart and very suave and very, dapper kind of a thing for their occasions. So that's the kind of stuff I do.
What do you think are more difficult to dress up, men or women?
That's that's a very interesting question. I think women are more difficult to dress up. There's no doubt about that.
The more demanding or more
No,
conscious of the body?
more conscious
More
of their
conscious of the body.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You've just hit the nail on the head. I think almost every woman is over-conscious of her.
Over-conscious of the body.
Over-conscious is the word I would use. Being conscious is still fine,
Yeah.
but over-conscious.
Over-conscious.
I have, like I was sharing with you, a large part of my job becomes like a psychologist, and I deal with women day in and day out where there is no problem. Actually, they're looking fine. But maybe somebody once told them, oh, your arms are looking fat, or, like your legs are looking fat, or in this dress you're looking fat, or, or whatever. My answer is look at yourself in the mirror, have self esteem, self confidence in your own judgment. If you feel, and yes, I'm not saying people don't have these things, everybody has, even I do. And I am also conscious about those things. But there is a way to deal with it. You're like, okay, this is my strength. Be equally confident about your strengths. This is my part that I love. I love to flaunt. I look good in it. And this is the part, okay, I'm like sort of, okay, we need to camouflage it or, like downplay it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That's the way to deal with it. Not like, oh, I don't look good. I'm not looking good in this also. I'm not looking good in that also. And, like, in general, just be more confident. More confident about yourself, whatever might be your body type, because I can guarantee you what is more important is the way you're carrying yourself.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
never about your figure or your
it's never
body.
about your figure.
It is the way you're carrying yourself. I've seen very thin people looking horrible because they are, again, not confident. They are not able to carry. A lot of people come to me saying, oh, we can't wear tubes and, we can't wear these off shoulders and everything like you do because we don't have the arms for it or we don't have the figure. Nothing like that. I have seen people with all kinds of body type, very curvy, very voluptuous, looking stunning. Stunning is the word. Just because they are able to carry themselves more confidently. So that's my number one rule. Just feel more comfortable with your body. See, everybody has their own version of what looks good. There is no, some people like skinny, some people like voluptuous, some people like more curvy. That's another big thing, by the way. There is no one definition that this is the perfect body. I think the only rule is fit body.
Yes.
That's the only rule.
Yeah.
So people who work out, they could be any body shape. But the people who work out regularly, you should see their body language is different. They just carry themselves better. They are like sharper. Their posture is better. Their body language is more confident overall. Even if they're not skinny.
Yeah.
They just, overall look better. So that's my take on everything. Whatever is your body type, you just work out regularly, manage your food, like in a balanced way, and just feel good about yourself. And dress, obviously, that's where, someone like me comes in.
Yeah.
I will give you something that works better on you. Yes, it is definitely true that not everything looks good on everybody.
Absolutely. Everybody has a different body type.
Exactly.
So let's just play a small rapid fire round. So
Okay.
we want some crisp answers, not too long.
Okay.
And we won't give you much time on that.
Okay.
So what's your guilty pleasure snack?
Guilty pleasure snack, number one is, I guess, tiramisu. Number two is almond croissant.
Oh, that's nice. We've been talking about fitness. So what is fitness for you in one word?
One word. Workout.
Oh, nice. One Bollywood celeb you'd swap lives for a day.
No one.
No one.
No one.
You're happy in your skin. You don't need to swap your life with
No.
anybody. Now, since you've traveled the world over, what's your favorite travel destination now for food and soul?
Hmm.
Because
Food.
that year was like,
Yes.
kind of discovering your own soul.
Food, I think my soul answer will be more accurate. I'm not really a foodie,
Okay.
so not sure about the food part, honestly. But for the soul, very tough to pick one place.
Okay, two.
So Black Forest in Germany, that was beautiful, and Kashmir will always be.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. Kashmir is still
Yeah.
Kashmir.
The treks.
One mantra you live your life with.
Just get up and do it, whatever it takes.
Beautiful. I think since you said it so nicely now, when you're doing that workout, what is the one Bollywood song that kind of inspires you to kind of push yourself harder and do a little bit more? Just sing those a few lines of that song.
Oh my God. I can't sing it, but I can tell you for sure that my entire workout cardio playlist is Bollywood mashups. So I have always done my cardio on complete Bollywood party mashups.
Okay.
And the latest is, of course, Dhurandhar.
Dhurandhar.
Yes. I love the soundtrack and I love doing my workout on
A
it.
few lines of that.
I will not be able to sing at all, but amazing. It's amazing.
I think I missed on asking a couple of very important things from you. The first one I missed was you said you don't advertise.
Yeah.
It's all word of mouth. So if somebody is interested in approaching you for the designs and wants to buy an outfit from you, how does one approach you?
So I don't really advertise in the conventional sense, but I do have Insta handle and Facebook handle, and mostly
Okay.
people see my designs there very organically, of course. And there are certain very nice Facebook groups where I post regularly, which is just sharing stories of my clients and clients sharing their testimonials,
Oh, that's
which
so
is
nice.
actually the real story behind the work. So those work very beautifully because it's more genuine, it's very real, it's not really advertising at all. So people approach me online through these groups or
Yeah.
through my Insta handle and Facebook. And the biggest is, of course, word of mouth because the clients go and share their stories and
There's nothing better than
transformations.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole experience that they've had with me, which is very unique and different from probably where you would generally just go and shop for an outfit from somewhere else. So the whole journey is so unique that I think that's very nice because people share it, and hence I get more clients from the real testimonials that my real clients are sharing. So that's really how the whole brand has been built.
How do you differentiate Moonrock from the other designers? Like you've kind of been a psychologist to your customers. You kind of spoken about body types and being confident in who you are, how
Right,
you look.
right.
But still, in your way, in the way you look at your brand, how do you differentiate yourself with other designers?
So I think there's a huge difference because while I do my collections for my shows, I do a lot of fashion shows.
Oh, okay.
So I do my those collections are I would say the more traditional way a designer works, in the sense that you have your own sensibility, you have your collections for the year, and exactly as you want to create them with no other parameter in mind. So that's where it's similar, but I would say 80% of my day-to-day work is completely different because it's very highly customized for my
Okay.
every client. So every client who walks in, of course, they are free to pick up from the ready range. I have a huge ready range as well. But most of the time, that's not how it works. When they walk in, they are looking for something very unique, which will work for their body type and for their occasion, and that's why they've come to me in the first place,
Yeah.
because they've heard that about me. That's
Yeah.
how I work. So that really completely changes the game, because it's not about, oh, this is the collection, this is what it is, and you just pick from there, and whether you like it or you don't like it. But I custom design for you as a person, keeping in mind your body type, your occasion, your personality, and what would really make you feel happy on your big day, or in your office, or on your holiday, or whatever it is that you have come to me for. So it's highly personalized, very customized. I meet every client myself, and my typical client meeting is like 2 hours long. So it's completely different, I would
Yeah.
say, from how a lot of other designers work.
Much, Kamal. Your journey has been such a beautiful reminder that life is never a straight line, probably. It's never perfect. So you kind of have to move with it and make your own lines, actually. Find
Absolutely
your own
correct.
path and make your own lines. And on that note, I think my favorite Bollywood song, I would just like to add a few lines here. कि हर घड़ी बदल रही है रूप जिंदगी, छाँव है कहीं कहीं है धूप जिंदगी, हर पल यहाँ जी भर जियो, जो है समा कल हो ना हो. So on that
So
note,
beautiful.
yeah,
So
I just
beautiful.
love these lines.
So
And
beautiful.
Shah Rukh Khan, my favorite song. And to everyone who's listening, I think there's a lot to take away from this episode. And please keep loving yourself, keep moving, and keep nourishing your body, your soul.
Absolutely.
And see you very soon in the next episode. Lots of love from both of us to all of you.